What I'm on at the moment is on a UDM Pro EC, something that most of our partners would have sold a million times. Obviously very, very popular for that. I am on the network component right now. And what you'll see is for the first time, we are starting to get buttons, Alarm Manager, as part of not only Protect, but as part of Network as well. So in Network, we now have Alarm Manager. Of course, in Protect, we still have Alarm Manager. If I jump over to that quickly, you'll see it's still there. If I go to Access, we also now have an Alarm Manager for the first time. And one that I can't really show too much details on is a new Alarm Manager in Connect as well. So the reason I can't show this is Connect, this capability is still in alpha access. It should make its way to early access within the next couple of weeks, I believe. So there's some extremely exciting stuff in this. I'll see if I can maybe sneak in a sneak peek at the end there, but we'll start with the network side first. So if you're looking at your client's gateways and you're not seeing this Alarm Manager function, please do pay attention to your firmware version and ensure that you are set up for early access. So in your site manager, you'll see you need to have early access, as well as on your settings in your normal device firmware, you need to ensure that you have it. Our topology today, very simple. So it's just a gateway, switch, couple of cameras, a couple of access control devices, and some client devices as well. It's obviously very typical of what you would see in a real world space, just a little bit more slimlined. So with that said, we can jump straight into the Alarm Manager. Just the one thing to note is that we are all very familiar with using logs, and logs still exist in Ubiquiti. So the logs are now just a general overview of the different things that are occurring in your system. So it's a combination of devices disconnecting, IT problems, firewall rules, blah, blah, blah. There's a ton of stuff that is basically combined together in this segment. If you want more advanced traffic logs, that's part of flows now. And the one that most people are familiar with is push notification settings. So push notification settings are the things that we've set up in the past, where we would have gone and said, okay, cool, if a DHCP lease fails or something along the lines happens, then it will trigger an alert to go out to you via the app or via the email. So just continuing on. Essentially, we don't have through this a granular way to control the alerts. So we could never previously create our own alerts. Instead, now we have that ability, and we can very granularly filter down to the different alerts or alarm types. If you're trying to do this in real time, you'll also see that some of these settings or some of these alerts might not be there. The reason for that could be because you might not be the owner of that account or the owner of this gateway. So please ensure that you are the owner to see everything as part of this. So these are all just the predefined rules, but we can granularly control and create as we want. So I see a couple of good questions coming through there. I'm going to be with that in a moment. So what we can do here as well, just something that's important is if you're getting spammed with an alert, let's say you created a alert incorrectly and you don't want to get thousands of emails, you can mute these notifications, and you can do this through the UniFi app as well. So if you've done something wrong and you want to mute it for a second, that is a good way to do it. And through this, we can see like all the different segments that we can filter down to. So these are all the pre-made ones, like I said, and this is basically to keep us honest in terms of IT admin, so we can see the basic stuff that happens in our environments. But let's get into the real power here. So Alarm Manager is basically Ubiquiti's way of creating automated alarms based on your system environments and variables. There's a couple of very unique use cases that we can apply here. Really, the main limit is our imagination in terms of how we can take this out to other things and what we can do with it. So what we can do as an example here, let's say I have a environment where I want to see or get a notification every time a client device is disconnected. So let's say I have a very grumpy CEO that works for a company, and he's been complaining about the Wi-Fi, and I need to set an alert to me every time this happens. I'm sure we've all been stuck in those scenarios where it's a tricky situation and you need to get the info out fast. So with this, I can now go, if a client device disconnects, then the client device is this device, it's an iPhone, for example, then send a notification to all the system admins. Or I can go to specific system admins. So I can just say it's to me only. And I can customize the content. So I can say, boss, phone down, emergency, etc. Make attendance to it. So it's a super easy way for us to get that done. And it's something that we can do on a per client level or per device level. So if a camera goes down or if something specific goes down, we can very easily alert based on that. You can also choose whether you want to include or exclude certain things. So you can select a bunch and then create a separate rule to exclude a few. And this essentially would now send us an alert. But there's a couple of caveats along with this that we need to be aware of. So be careful when you're setting this up, because if, let's say, for example, the boss leaves at the end of the day and we haven't set up a time schedule, then every single time the boss leaves, I'm going to get an alert that says, hey, the phone's disconnected. So we don't want that. What I can do is I can say that send me this alert between these hours only, so 7:45 to 8 p.m. Anytime after that, don't send me an alert. So that's one way you can do it. But there's other caveats as well. So let's say the person goes out to lunch and their phone disconnects from Wi-Fi or disconnects, then essentially it's still going to trigger this in place as well. So where I would predominantly use this is for my internal devices, like my own Ubiquiti devices, to make sure that if those disconnect, that we are alerted about it. Another useful thing that I can think of is client device connected. So as an IT admin, one of the most frequent things we do is we try to find stuff like a Wi-Fi printer. And we'll sit there and go, I don't know why it's not connecting to Wi-Fi. I've tried everything, and I want to be notified when this thing actually connects. So what I can do is I can set a client device connected, go to that printer. We'll just imagine this is a printer, and say that if this connects, then send me a notification. So handy tool for that. Really, again, your imagination is the big thing here to determine what you can do. One of the useful ones for me is high traffic alerts. So let's say like we've got normal employees, they on average do a few gigabit per second or a few gig per day, but they obviously shouldn't download massive files. It could be an indication of abuse on your network. So I can do here a alert that says for either download or upload, if it exceeds 10 gigabits or 1 terabyte or whatever you prefer, then send me an alert. Where this is particularly handy for is if you have, let's say, for example, an expensive 5G connection and you're using that as a backup, but you don't want massive uploads during that backup period. So you can potentially say that if you're uploading massive amounts, then that causes problems for us. And the important one here that really we want to emphasize is port anomalies. This is a new feature introduced along with the latest version of the firmware. So port anomalies here basically just shows nothing. You'll see that it filters it down to Ubiquiti devices only, and specifically switches typically is where you will use this. What this does is it looks at a bunch of variables on your network to determine if there's problems. So I can say, for example, that the switch should notify me if there's a port anomaly. What is a port anomaly? So to see this, we can just jump on over to the switch. So the switch here shows us that it's got an anomaly score. There's the port number, it's all my connected hardware. And then the big one we're checking out for is anomalies. So if everything's running as it should, the anomaly score should be 0. If stuff goes wrong, you're going to start seeing anomalies like this, where it assigns a score to it. And in this instance, I can go to the insights and I can check. What happened here was someone created a network loop. So it says STP port blocked, and that's a critical event. So if something like that happens, alert the IT admin. This is way more in depth because it can also look at stuff like if the cables are faulty, if a cable goes faulty, let's say someone pinched a cable while they were walking through the roof, stuff like that. Power goes down to a device, or broadcast and discovery is broken, or just traffic path health in terms of routing. So all of this is essentially like predefined. Ubiquiti will monitor out for this. There's a question from Dan saying, is this supposed to be a shared screen? I just want to confirm you guys can still see my screen. If I can get someone to give me a thumbs up. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Okay, no problems. So this anomaly score is also generated, and it's a good way for us to get more insights without digging into everything. And because it's part of Alarm Manager, I can use that to alert certain people, and I can take this a step further. So I can go, if there's an Alarm Manager on any of these devices, then use the webhook capability and tie this into something external. So there's a couple of pre-made ones, Slack, so you can get a Slack notification if this happens, or ServiceNow. ServiceNow is a PSA system / ticketing system, so you can log tickets if an event occurs, like a port anomaly. And I can just go, yep, so something's happened. I need to provide the URL to obviously direct this to the ServiceNow integration. And then I can say, okay, cool, something's happened, please send an alert to that. And that will include a bunch of predefined details as well. If you don't see your integration here, which frankly is everything else, so if you want to do like Freshdesk or something along those lines, you can create custom webhooks, and this will basically provide the URL that you want to post to. Predominantly, it will be post, and then you go the authentication method as your choice. And again, same thing, you can add custom content, custom headers, and basically do it the way that you want to, and integrate it to third-party things if that third-party thing has an API or webhook capabilities. Most of your PSA or management systems or ticketing systems will have this functionality, and it's very easy to actually set this up. So I'm going to be honest here and say I'm not a developer, so I had no idea how this works. And what I did was just go to ChatGPT and ask it how to use this to integrate to Freshdesk via their like public webhook information. It gave me everything that I needed. It span out the schema that I needed to use everything. So it's a very cool way to get it done if you're unsure. But this basically means you can use this for anything external. And it doesn't just have to be ticketing systems. The sky is the limit here. Pretty much anything you can imagine in terms of automation, taking this into like if this, then that systems, or any other platform that you can imagine, you can potentially use this as an alert. So it doesn't just have to be port anomalies as well. There's obviously a ton more stuff that we can do. Port anomalies is just a particularly useful one. So if I go over to the internet segment, so I see Nate saying he still can't see the screen. Nate, I'm sorry about that. What I can do is I can also email you just the recorded session as well. Sorry if you're experiencing problems there. I'll send you the recorded section directly after. In the internet segment, so just a couple of things we can do here. So obviously if the internet disconnects, then send me an alert. The problem is always just there needs to be internet on this device to send me the alert, otherwise I won't get it. Ubiquiti actually has a default alert now in Site Manager that checks if the site goes down. That doesn't rely on the individual device to report it, so you should still get a notification. But stuff like high latency, you can also select multiple, just FYI. High latency packet loss is very important for letting us know if the internet service provider is not doing what they're supposed to. There's another one here called data limit. This only works if you have the ULTE devices and you've reached the capacity that you've set. So if you said your limit is 50 gig, then that's the maximum limit that will alert you when it gets there. For power, one of the important ones here is insufficient PoE power. If you have a big PoE switch and people keep adding devices onto that, eventually you will run out of PoE power unless it's one of the brand new UXGs or XG switches, in which case you'll have thousands of watts to play with. But you can say, if there's insufficient PoE power, send me an alert. If backup power gets in use, or a UPS overload is detected. So how would Ubiquiti know about this? It's only if you're using a Ubiquiti UPS. So you would have all seen Ubiquiti announce the UPSs recently, so the alerts obviously tie into that as well. So Another thing as well is, and probably one of the most important ones, is setting a power supply not operational alert. If one of your power supplies fails, especially on devices like the enterprise gateways and stuff like that, we want to be notified. So again, very clever way to do it. And security, obviously we want to set up alerts as well for stuff that get blocked by firewall, honeypots triggered, and threat detection. So I can actually give you a practical example here, and we'll actually do this in real time. And what I'll say is, if a person tries to reach a specific site, so let's say you're in an industry where people can't Google gambling or can't Google key things, and you've gone ahead and created a firewall rule to block that. You can get a notification when that happens, and you can actually take this a step further as well, which I'm going to show to you in a moment. So I'll go create, I'll say no leader website. I'm just going to go create a rule that blocks that leader page or the leader main website. In the settings, if I go to my firewall rules, I can very easily then create a new policy here. I'm not going to go through all of it, but basically I'll just say that from the internal zone to the external zone, block the traffic if they're trying to reach a specific domain. What I've done is I've predefined leader, and I can just go, if someone tries to get to leader these websites, then it will basically block it. And that should now also send me an alert. So what I'll do is on my mobile phone, because I am connected to this, I'm quickly going to go to leader. So let's see, leadersystems.com.au. Cool, I can tell it's working because it's already blocked it. I've instantly received a notification on my phone saying that a attempt was blocked, and I can verify this by checking, and it says hits 1. So I got a notification here on my phone, but I can also have this emailed out to me if I want to. And I can again verify this as well by going back to insights and seeing all the blocked traffic, and you can see it just blocked that for me. So I also tried to sit on my laptop, so super easy way for me to get a notification about that. Where this is really powerful is if you start tying this into automation platforms. So let's say I want an alert to be generated through to something external so it can take further action. So let's say I want to go to Webhook. I'll set a custom webhook, and I'll point this to Power Automate. So for those that don't know about Power Automate, it's part of the Microsoft suite. It allows me to automate most things in the Microsoft Dataverse. And what I can do potentially is say that if this webhook is received, so let's say this webhook is received, and the output from that, or the action to take, would be to trigger something. So I can potentially say that send an email to Alex or do something. And I can even take a step further and go, for example, and say that add this to a Microsoft Excel sheet showing every time someone tried to go to access this page. I don't know, if you want to raise that through to HR, send emails, potentially even send Teams messages. There's a ton of stuff that you can do beyond this when you take it out of that environment. So stuff that was previously like impossible directly through Ubiquiti can now be done, but you can do it externally. And again, if you take it through if this and that or similar, you have a lot of power there. So I'm also going to show you a practical example of that in a moment. And the most important one for me is the system segment. So looking at the different alerts that we get here, some of the stuff that is in here is extremely important. So stuff like multiple devices restarted. That's typically a good indication that your switch is having problems or something's gone wrong. Then take that out to my service desk and inform my techs to check it out ASAP. Fan issues, device adoption. Sometimes spooky stuff gets adopted into your network for some reason. You want to be notified of stuff like that. Device updates, etc. as well. If you want to see or be alerted of admin stuff changing, that's obviously possible. Network, this is probably the most important segment, where we can be notified of loops, ports dropping traffic, IP address conflicts, pretty much anything you can imagine that we would typically raise a ticket for. It's already here. It just means you get automated tickets created. even on Wi-Fi. So if someone is trying to impersonate your SSID, you can get an alert on that Wi-Fi spoofing, or if DFS radar hits are detected. So if you're accidentally broadcasting in the weather radar spectrum and you shouldn't be, then that can send you alerts as well. So this segment, extremely straightforward to understand, not really too much else that we can do here. I will just mention that this is expanding constantly. And if you're not seeing all of the features here that I have right now, again, it's just down to firmware version. You'll probably start seeing all of this momentarily. So for network, easy done. Protect is also expanding out massively. Please ignore all the cameras that you see in the background here. They're just on the desk behind me, so not the prettiest scene, but what we want to do is set up alerts here based on our cameras or sensors. So this is where a lot of the automation can take place. And there's something that's a bit trick that I'm going to show you guys as well to make other components part of this as well. So let's say, let's take a step back. So again, same thing. If you want to mute notifications because you've done something wrong, it's all here. You can filter down to specific activities, who's created it, etc. And again, there's a bunch of pre-made ones that you can use and repurpose. So for example, barking, if I want to be notified on one camera but not another, or something like that, I can fully customize all the predefined ones as well, just FYI. So let's create an alarm. What I can do is I can have a couple of scenarios here. Let's say, what's a good use case? So let's say I'm setting up a central NOC, operation center, and I want to be notified of certain things happening. So let's say a unknown face is detected in our warehouse. Obviously, we want to know everyone that's in our warehouse, especially the sensitive areas. We would want to be notified of that. So I can set that up and essentially point it to an alert again. Or I can take more actions. I can do stuff like playback sounds, switch on lights, tell a PTZ to move around. There's a lot more control out here. So for both unknown faces, known faces, and person of interest. So what we see a lot at schools is people wanting, or teachers wanting an alert if a parent that's been barred from entering the property or shouldn't be there, they want to get notified of that. So you can set a person of interest, and when you flag that person, you can upload a photo of them. That can actually trigger an alert to say, notify these people that that person's in view of this camera. It can also go out to webhooks like we've seen before. With this, it doesn't have the integration to ServiceNow yet because it's predominantly meant as a ticketing system where this is more of a custom webhook scenario. And another popular scenario is to just unlock doors based on certain criteria. So that's a very common use case. What's really cool with this as well is it is tied back into the access control system. So you can take multiple actions beyond that and vice versa. So you can even from the access control side, do things on the protect side as well. So with this, it's not only people and faces, it's vehicle identification. So known vehicles, you can even do vehicle description or a vehicle detail match. So this is brand new. So full or partial license plate. So if you say that maybe I saw only half the person's plate and I see a plate that's rolling up that matches that description, then send me an alert. So it's a very cool way to get it done. Even geofencing, so you can say that if a certain person leaves a specific area, then notify me of X. And I can say that Bob's supposed to be working for 8 hours. Remind me later, don't want to be too much touchable. Bob's supposed to be working for 8 hours. If he leaves the geofence area before that, then send me a notification or send HR a notification. In terms of the rest of this, so persons, people counting has now been added on as well. There's not through the interface currently a way to see the exact count just there's through the interface, but you can't export it just yet. So currently it's still via notifications. We have raised that to Ubiquity. And you can basically set up people counting and triggers based on count. So if you have a store, retail outlet, and if more than 100 people walk in the span of 30 minutes, then you know there's a rush and you need to get more staff out. that can send you a very easy notification on that. Vehicles, same thing, like if you toll gates and stuff like that. And animals, so this is a surprising one. We have a lot of requests for this. We have farmers that want to count their cattle, and they want to get a notification if the cattle count exceeds something, or what the count is. It can also be made part of it. Activity is often overlooked, so line crossing, if someone moves beyond a certain segment. Loitering is also relatively new, it can be tied to count. Object idle time, that's like if someone leaves a bag or vehicle or person in a specific area, then notify me. Ring and sound, so ring is when someone rings through to a doorbell. Sound is the important one. So all these different things that we see here can also trigger through to our webhooks and unlock doors and do whatever we want. So there is a lot more stuff that we can do here. One of the key ones that I thought of was if I go known faces, or let's say a person of interest always, if my like high value client walks through the front door and I want to greet them by name, then I can go person of interest on these cameras, then notify me as the admin or notify a specific person. So I can go out and meet the customer, say hello. So again, your imagination is the big thing here. It can fully tie into home automation as well. All of your time and attendance can be tied into this. Again, if I say known face detected on X, then take that out to a webhook that reports on that. Example that I got from a customer was they want to be notified if a known face goes out to a smoking area, and they want to tie that back into Power Automate. That automatically adds that into a sheet so they can track how many times people are going out to a smoking area. And of course, you can track that back to the video footage as well. So lots of stuff here, even on speed, tampering, etc. Depending on the cameras you have that ability. One thing that is crucial here is that you also have the ability to do webhooks in. So as opposed to just triggering a webhook out, I can have an external webhook trigger an alert internally or trigger an action internally. An example might be someone is going through a hotel management system and they've just unlocked a door, or they've just tried to unlock a door. I can basically set up an alert to say if that webhook comes in, I can push this out to unlock a door or push out another webhook, or just notify someone. So my theory here is if I go to access, you'll see that I can do the same thing where I can put a webhook out. It doesn't currently support webhooks in. But theoretically speaking, you should be able to take stuff that happens on access and push it into the system to do other things as well. Of course, stuff like unlocking the doors, that's automatically supported, but stuff like trigger specific notifications or specific actions, like a person walking in through the front door or unlocking a door, and you want to switch on a light. That's a very cool use case, or play a sound. One of the customers I was speaking said he wants Darth Vader to, the theme song to Darth Vader to play whenever someone unlocks a door. It's completely possible with that. So it's yet to be tested. I haven't done it that way yet, but I theoretically think it's possible. The other thing that I can think of is it should be possible to point this to other gateways as well. So I'm just in one Ubiquiti controller at the moment, but theoretically speaking, I can say that another gateway triggering something can potentially trigger through to this one and take actions based on that. I would love for you guys' feedback on what your use cases are, what you see you can potentially use this for. Again, imagination is the big thing here. Of course, through all of this, we still want to be notified of cameras dropping off, application issues, etc. Everything as part of that. So it's, again, very powerful in that front. Okay, I'm going to jump to integrations and APIs in a moment. Just very quickly want to go to access. I think most people would be quite familiar with this segment as well, but the alarm manager in access is brand new. Follows much the same rhyme and reason as everything else. So there's a comment here saying it's still very limited. Would love to see us being able to play sound on the cameras and stuff like that. 100%. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I personally think that's like not too far away. Like we saw through Protect, there's the ability to trigger a sound. Currently, that's restricted to only playing on the AI horn and in future the siren as part of Superlink. But I would love to see that as like cameras being part of it as well. So I fully predict that's coming. So for your alarms in access, as you can imagine, this is very related to door access control. If a door is locked, doors unlocked, doors opened, etc. This is what we're talking about. So let's say if a door is opened, it's the gym access, then trigger a webhook to notify my Protect API that it should switch on a light or it should play a sound as potential way to do it. Or notify me, and then we have a lot more actions here. So we have emergency, which is for started the evacuation process, start a lockdown process, whatever you want to trigger from that. Unlock other doors. So an example might be a specific door's open, the gym door's opened, but I've got a secondary gate directly behind that that also needs to be opened. The door hub might not necessarily support that, especially if you're using a door hub mini. Then you can just go, okay, cool. If that happens and the door's opened on gym access, then unlock. They don't have the, so there we go. There's the, so unlock the secondary door for a one-time period or whatever I define here. So if you have multiple doors in consecutive order, so like a outside barrier door and then an inside door that's just a normal door, then you can even trigger multiple actions beyond that. And this, of course, goes back to everything else, like a temporary unlock, or an important one for me is where denials happen. So someone doesn't have permission to go into an area. You can specify the person or what you want to do. So let's say someone tried to use an incorrect PIN code on the gym access, then trigger something to happen. Notify me, trigger an emergency, or lock certain things, like lock other areas. An important thing here not to overlook is just ignore repeated alarms. So let's say person it's in the middle of the night. They shouldn't be typing in random PIN codes on the outside of your building. I'm sure you guys don't know who I'm talking about, and they shouldn't get, or you shouldn't get notifications of that, but maybe you want to see the first time that's happening. So what you can do is you can just say ignore repeated alarms, like for X period of time. So tons of granularity and control around this. For the doorbells, same thing. And again, don't forget your scheduling. One thing that is also important to me is visitor creation, especially now with a new way Ubiquiti is doing identity, where the users can potentially create a visitor pass through the identity app. So literally in identity that you would run on your PC. So I don't have a credential here, but you can potentially create a user, but you can be notified of that happening or trigger actions based beyond that as well. The key one that I could think of was if a visitor arrived. So we have a visitor system, so we can actually go through here, through settings, go to our visitors, set up a new visitor, and I can say that I want to be notified if this person arrives. When this visitor scans in their QR code, for example, for the first time, that will notify me. Or I can do stuff like require check-in at kiosk. I did a webinar on that in the previous session, where you can actually walk up to an iPad, scan the QR code, and it will print out a badge for that person. You can be notified that that's happened, so it ties back into it as well. So that user management or visitor arrived is incredibly powerful for me. And of course, all the system settings beyond that as well. Okay, so last one that I want to look at very quickly is just, you'll see there's nothing for talk just yet. I suspect that's coming shortly. And the last one I want to look at is connect. So there's a bunch of stuff coming here. I'll quickly click on the button and you guys can take a gander at the possible things here. So, and I'll close that just as quickly. This is a very early firmware version, so it's something that Ubiquiti is still refining, but you should be able to do a lot more control out of Connect in future. So expanding it out beyond just a digital signage solution to way more than that. So it's a little bit of a cheeky show off there, but looking forward to Ubiquiti's features there. So I expect this will be in early access shortly. We'll probably push the video on YouTube out later as a result of this, but that's one of the ways you can do it. Okay, so on the alarm management, obviously very easy to understand. There is additional points that we can do as well. So we can do stuff like create integrations, and these are API level integrations. So alarm manager is like an automated way of doing it, but API integration is obviously at a more controllable level. Ubiquiti does have a full network API and Protect API available, and they also have a site manager API. So site manager is just like the main way we'd reach into this. It's a separate API as well. So it's well documented. The Protect API is expanding out massively. The one that I'm really pushing for and hoping for is the ability to do or take the access control and make this part of the APIs as well. Logic behind that is for stuff like hotel visitor management systems and stuff like that, where I would like for that to pull the information from the hotel management system and push it into my visitor management system or something along those lines instead. So that's potentially one of the use cases, but it's very handy in that regard. Again, beyond this, you can create your own API keys and integrate pretty much whatever you want to based on Ubiquiti's public APIs. So there is a lot more expansion happening on the APIs as well. And if you have a request, please submit it to the community pages. There is a ton of people contributing what they would like to integrate. And finally, we've gone through the logs already. So just remember that logs are still there, but this is more meant for exporting to SIEM servers and stuff like that. It's no longer the main way to like get the information out. If you do want granular insight into the types of traffic going across your network, flows is the main place to do it. And that is pretty much it. So the alarm manager, my biggest like point of encouragement here is go play with it. There's like the worst that can happen is you spam yourself a little bit. That's pretty hard to break stuff here. So really, really important for IT to understand this and move forward, especially for tying into Freshdesk and your ticketing systems, etc.